But we throughout the world, very few human beings change radically. They change from one pattern to another pattern, from one religious sanctions to another religious sanctions. They become Tibetan monks or Hindu monks, which is the same old pattern repeated over and over and over again. And as one observes, one asks, why doesn't a human being, living as he does, in confusion, in disorder, always in conflict, always struggling, why doesn't he change basic? I don't know if you have asked that question of yourself, which is, why don't you as a human being change most profoundly? Because one sees that one must change. To change not only the society, the corruption, the misery, the confusion, all that is going on outwardly, which is contributed by our inner state, which is our confusion, our disorder, and constant effort. Why do we live in this state? You understand my question? Why? We have infinite knowledge about ourselves from philosophers, psychologists, and others. There are many facts and analysis of human beings. And we read them, we listen to them, but we go on our own way in the same old pattern. Why? Why don't you as a human being radically dispel all this? When you ask that question of yourself, you will say probably, I haven't got enough energy to battle all this. is that the question, that you have not enough energy? One has plenty of energy if one wants anything. If you want to climb those mountains, you climb. If you want plenty of money, you work. If you want your sexual appetites satisfied, you drive. If you want to fulfill your ambitions, you are at it day and night. You go, if you want to find some comfort in some religious teacher, and those are not religious teachers at all. There is no teacher and a taught in religious matters. Please understand this basically. They travel miles, go through great discomfort, and live in utter poverty. They've got plenty of energy. But somehow, that energy is dissipated in doing all this. In doing something that's not at all worthwhile. The doing of something which is the repetition of a pattern which is not of their own. It's a new pattern, but it's still a pattern. So it is not a question of lack of energy. Right? Would you agree to that? Would you see that? Oh, and is it a direction? You understand? To have a direct direction in life. Like as you have a direction, if you want to become an executive, a foreman, an expert of this, or you have an end in view, a directive. And is there a directive in the psychological field at all? Please, this is very important for us to understand this. We are used to directives, more purposes, an end. And we are asking, is there in the psychological field a purpose at all? An end in view, to be satisfied, to be conquered, to be achieved. So one must go into that question very deeply. That is, biologically, there is an aim to keep the body healthy, to eat the right food, not to destroy the intelligence, its native intelligence, to have food, clothes, and shelter, and biologically to be secure. Otherwise the brain can't function actively. So there is that biological necessity, and which becomes a purpose, an aim. Now we're asking, is it the biological instinct moving towards psychological state? Yes? Which says, I must have a purpose. What is the meaning of life? What is the end? What is it all about? So you see, biologically, it may be the movement in the psychological area. And in the psychological area, there may be no end at all. Yes? It may be our illusion, moving from one biological instinctive movement to a psychological feeling in which all movement is meaningless. We have many, many fears. Fear of darkness, fear of living, fear of public opinion, fear of what my neighbor might say, fear of my wife or husband or the girl or the man, fear of insecurity, fear when you have security economically, fear of that you might lose it. Fear, we have got so many fears. Why haven't we solved these fears? You have solved the problem of war, that is to continue war. And you have applied your brain to prepare for war. All the vast generals on both sides, or 1,000 sides, they're all preparing for war. Plans, submarines, airplanes, blah, all the rest of it. They've exercised their brain to produce all that. And why hasn't that same brain applied to this enormous sense of fear man has from the beginning of days? Why? Which means, why have you, the speaker, have not gone into this question seriously, as you do go very seriously when you are hungry, when you are ambitious, when you want more money? You work at it. Why have we not gone into this question of fear? The psychologists, the therapeutists have explained the causes of it in different ways. If we could put aside all what they have said, because after all, it's all what they have said may be merely verbal. They might be as scared as you. Probably they are. I met several of them. I know they're scared like you about something or other. And why have we not solved this question? And is it possible to end fear? We're going to go into that. Apply not only your feelings, your emotions and your brain to work at this. Not escape from it. Not try to rationalize it. But to see why we are incapable or allowed ourselves to become incapable. What is fear? And you know, when there is fear, the nature of it, how it throbs, how your physical, the organism shrinks. how your brain becomes addled, almost paralyzed. Don't you know all this? Am I describing something abnormal? It's a fact. It affects your sleep, it affects your daily life, it brings suspicion, anxiety, depression, and you cling to something and hope that won't change and that won't bring fear. Either we deal with the root of fear, or we trim the branches of fear. Right? Right, sir? Which do you want to do? Trim the branches of fear. Please, I'm asking, when he's asking this seriously, don't neglect what the speaker is asking. Do you want to deal with the branches of fear, the 1,000 fears, like a lovely tree? A tree which is the most beautiful thing, one of the most beautiful things on earth. It's got many branches, many leaves. Likewise, fear, which is so ugly, it has also got many branches, many trees, many leaves, many expressions. Do you want to deal with that, the expressions, the surface and outside, or do we go together into the root of it? Personally, the speaker doesn't want to go into trim the branches, which is so futile. So let's together find out what is the cause of fear. We know all the expressions of fear. So if we can find the root of it, the expressions can wither away. So what is the cause or causation of fear? If one asks you that question, what's the cause? Would you answer it? Cause. Or do you expect someone to explain to the cause of it? The explanation is not the fact. Right? You may paint a marvelous picture of the mountain. Hung in all the museums of the world. But that picture is not the mountain. The word fear is not fear. Right? But the word fear may evoke fear. So we are not dealing with the description, with the word, but the depth and the strength of fear. And we are trying to find out together, not I explain, you accept, but together find out for ourselves so that it is you discover it. Therefore, it's your truth, not somebody else's truth. You can't live with someone else's truth. You can only live with truth. So what is the cause of it? The cause of it, I'll go into it. Is it thought? Is it time? Is it thought? Let's look at it. I'm living, one is living now. And thought says I might die tomorrow, or I might lose my job. I have my money in the bank, but the bank may fail. I'm all right with my wife, but she may turn to somebody tomorrow. I have printed a book, and I hope it will be a great success. Which means fear. I want to be known, which is the most childish thing in the world. I want to be known, and somebody is known already much more than I am. So there is this thinking, that is, thinking I might lose, I might gain, I might be lonely. So thinking is one of the factors of fear, right? I'm all right with my friends, with my wife and my children, but I also know, have experienced this sense of desperate loneliness. Don't you know it? A sense of deep, frightening loneliness. And I'm frightened. Have you ever examined what loneliness is, why it has its cause? Don't you know? Don't you have this feeling of loneliness? Huh? Am I talking something abnormal, saying something abnormal? Huh? You must all be saints. So what is this loneliness? Which causes, you understand, sir? Which causes attachment, holding on to something, however illusory, however false, however meaningless. I hold on to my wife. I hold on to my club, to my God, to my ritual, to my friends, because if I let go, I'm utterly lonely. And we'll go into that question. Why human beings are so frightened of loneliness? They may live with a group, they may follow some guru and all the rest of that nonsense. But stripped of all their decoration, they are what they are, lonely. Why? Well then, what is loneliness? Not to have any relationship with anything, with nature, with another, with the friend or woman or the man with whom I've lived, all that somehow has withdrawn. I'm left utterly empty, lonely. Why? What is this feeling of utter despair? I'll explain, but the explanation is not the fact. The word is not the thing. If it becomes very clear that the word is not the thing. You, Mr. Smith, is not Mr. Smith. The word is not you. When you say my wife or my husband, that is, you understand? Yeah, I'm glad you understand that at least. So explanation is not the reality, the truth. So look at it, let's look at it without the word. Without the word, loneliness. Can you do it? To look at that feeling without using the word lonely or despair. Loneliness comes when all our days are spent in self-centeredness. The very activity of self-centeredness is producing loneliness, right? Because it's narrowing my whole or the vast, extraordinary existence of life into a small little me. And when one realizes that, there is that feeling, my God, how lonely I am. And to face it, to be with it completely, not move away from it, then there is a radical change. So we must come back to this question of fear. We said thought is one of the causes of fear. Obviously. I am thinking about death because I'm old man or young, or you see some hearse going by with all the flowers, horses, cars. What a civilized country this is. With all the noise of death. And I see thought is one of the causes of death. One of the causes of fear, right? You see this obvious fact, right? Right, says. No. And also, time is a factor of fear. Right? I'm afraid what might happen. I am afraid of something I have done which others are using as a blackmail. You follow? I'm afraid of that. So time and thought are the root of fear. Time and thought, there is no division between thought and time. Thought is time. Right? Now, the problem is, I'm sorry, I won't use the word problem. The question is, thought is necessary, time is necessary, right? To go from here to there, time is necessary. And thought is necessary to drive a car, take a bus, take the train. Thought is necessary, time is necessary at that level. Right? Now I'm saying, as thought and time are the root of fear, is thought and time necessary? There it is necessary. But psychologically, is thought and time necessary? Right? Is it? As long as time and thought are, if you think are necessary, in the psychological world, in the world of the self, in the world of psyche, in the world of inside the skin, then you will be perpetually in fear. Right? If you perceive that, if there is perception that thought is the root of fear and time, perception, not acceptance, then you thought and time are necessary at the physical level. Inwardly, it's not necessary. Therefore, you're watching them. You're watching it. The brain is actively watching itself. Every minute to see that thought and time do not enter into its realm. This requires, you understand, this requires great attention, awareness. So that the brain, which has accumulated fear for centuries, or for one day, that brain sees where it is necessary, where it's not necessary, therefore it's watching like a hawk. So that thought and time doesn't enter into the whole process of living. You see? This is real discipline, this is the learning, as we explained the other day. This discipline means, the root meaning of the word is disciple. The disciple is one who learns, who is learning all the time. He never says, I've learned, and stays. So, the brain is watching itself all the time so that it's active. So that there is no time for it to move or to change. You understood something? It's now 11:45. Must stop. Sisters and ladies, our difficulty is we listen to a lot of things. We know a great deal. We have searched, asked, read. We have sought the advice of others. We have wandered the earth and find out what it's all about. But we never ask of ourselves. We never demand of ourselves serious, deep questions. We always ask superficial questions. And so we make our life very superficial. But if you ask, questions. Questions that are demand answer from yourself. So that you exercise your brain, your feelings, your whole attention is given to that question. Then you begin to discover for yourself without being told by anybody, including this speaker. And so when there is freedom from fear, you are then, you don't want gods, you don't want anything from anybody in the world. Then you are really a free man.
Worldwide open secret, solely Mr. Deck heralds the true God in the entire history of the universe. Not even in the Truth ʟɪ Pravda is Mr. Francis E. Deck Esquire's 8-page detailed letter exposing the worldwide deadly communist gangster computer god and the worst, deadliest enemy of the entire human race and the entire universe in the entire history of the entire universe, namely the communist atheist conspiracy with all of the deadly gangster, unbelievable, sophisticated Frankenstein controls, the Catholic Church. These facts, like the below facts, cannot be found in the communist gangster computer god concocted and manipulated so-called history and news media. Communist gangster computer god unbelievably staged like Hollywood scum on top czarina, alias great dictator Franklin D. Roosevelt, the polio-paralyzed, legless drug addict, idiotic, suicidal czarina fag who had his unbeatable rival Will Rogers exterminated in an exploding ball of flame by a planted bomb here in safe USA airfield shortly after takeoff at the end of Will Rogers' unprecedented, renowned, arduous, round-the-world goodwill flying trip with Wiley Post in his beautiful, electronically sophisticated, luxurious, ultra-modern Winnie Mae airplane. Not only all stairways had inclines added for Czarina Roosevelt's computerized wheelchair, but a football field-sized glass house-type building was built in back of the White House for his medicinal, piped-in, pure-warmed seawater into his gigantic, suicide-proof, 2-feet-deep swimming pool where he waded naked with his nurses and had sodomy affairs. Ones very near to him have written popular books about his sodomy, love affairs. Already in his third term, he was a helpless and useless specter case, incapable of even appearing at his fourth-term convention. This one-world communist who married his immediate cousin, Eleanor Roosevelt, like his runted, sickly, pot-faced grandfather, propagandized as a hunter and a sportsman, Teddy Roosevelt, here from Oyster Bay, Long Island, the Rosenfeld family, another computer god's top-secret camouflage for gifted Ethiopians. As a big-time kid gangster politician, computer god even raised his age for historical purposes. Teddy Roosevelt was paid off with the vice president do absolutely nothing farce position title. Repeatedly, vice presidents have successfully waited and lurked to eliminate El Presidente. Below are a few examples. So the kiddish gangster Teddy Roosevelt lured Midwestern dolt McKinley into New York for extermination, like the lowly, gutter-mouthed Big L.B. Johnson lured playboy sodomist in with the mafia Jack Kennedy into his hometown, Dallas. Wide open, people say it was the three brothers, Sam, Milton, and Lyman Jacobson, who with the judges feloniously swindled the governor of Texas out of the U.S. Senator election shortly before Lyman was fixed as the compromise choice for Jack Kennedy's vice presidential nominee. Who ever saw a Lyndon married to a tiny runt, Birdie? Under computer god orders, even Birdie now has changed her name for historical purposes to Lady Bird New, and even her Ethiopian surname is now changed to Taylor. It was this scummy, bum, lowly gangster Lyman as Presidente who had the gigantic Czarina swimming pool deepened several feet to a regular swimming pool and regularly had naked sodomy swimming parties with women personnel. Gangster Monkey C, Gangster Monkey 2. Now, even the Pope John in the Vatican has a similar swimming pool to share with the endless numbers of nuns to help him forget his good old days as a married man naked in bed with high Holy Communion sodomy. Did not that world-renowned untouchable felon gangster Tricky Dick Nixon? His daughter Tricia is married to Davy Eisenschenker Jr. No. Nixon was the sure loser to the fag queer kid Bobby Kennedy until he was lured into very distant Tricky's hometown, Los Angeles. Did not gangster Tricky Dick Nixon do more than feloniously watch eyesight television of Bobby Kennedy's extermination? Abe Lincoln's computer god, alias for Abe Lincoln's law partner, was Stanton. Abe, in the gangster courts, feloniously conspired, fabricated patent infringements to swindle thousands of dollars from C. McCormick Reaper Machinery Company. As president, Abe made Stanton a cabinet member. In order to automatically become president, Stanton concocted a grandiose murder scheme to murder not only Lincoln, but also the vice president and secretary of state. Secretly, Vice President Johnson overseered it. Lincoln was murdered, and Secretary of State Seward was very seriously injured. Automatic President Harry Schimmelman Truman, in terror, gave political concessions to Congress to enact abolishment of the automatic succession to the presidency by cabinet members for cheap, conspired, felonious pardon fits. Gangster Nixon gave presidency to dope felon Jerry Ford, another computer god alias, the wide-open, lifelong felon bribe extortionist, forgerer, and check launderer Jerry Ford. David Eisensheimer, or Eisenschenker, another runted, negroidically befreckled, semi-illiterate, cowardly yokel kid, also Jimmy Carter, who shared the sodomy drug beds of the military academy with niggers. Under secret computer god orders upon graduation, CIA changed even his family gravestones. Camp David in Maryland was named after him, for him, and by him, including the division of SS, Secret Service troops, who even tended his Playboy giant golf course. Here, David Eisenhower hid in cowardly terror and watched World War II on Eyesight TV. His historical name, Dwight Eisenhower. As president for months, he was dying, in a coma, useless and helpless. I lay. Sneak, shameless, hangman rope gangster, government leaders into Frankenstein, living death, eternal slavery. I now go to death for your lowest deadly felony crimes against me. Frankenstein earphone radio parroting puppet gangster slave, do not dare to repeat any part of this truthful message, for like Mr. Francis E. Deck Esquire, you too are expendable, and you too can be beaten bloodily by the gangster police and dragged in chains into a windowless telephone booth type prison cell and put into maximum security insanity prison for undetectable extermination, and by the lowest gangsterism, namely the law, character assassinated for life as an insane criminal menace to this worst gangster communism. Now that your besweated, terrified, trembling delirium has subsided, have your computer subdivision play out my letter, and you reread my letter for your only hope for a future. Francis E. Deck, Esquire, 29 Maple Street, Hempstead, New York. Worldwide communist gangster computer god scum on top, staged like Hollywood, with plastic pale stand-in actors, with communist gangster computer god speed recording, instantaneous, simultaneous, edited, simulated voices implanted for all TV and news media microphones in any known language. Unbelievable con artist gangsterism solely for the overall plan. Worldwide eternal Frankenstein living death slavery. Yokel felon King Jimmy Carter, slime from the academies, which Mr. Deck intelligently refused unsolicited acceptance to the most elite academy from here in Niggertown, and even insidious con artist gangster divorcee Pope John, they both speak Spanish and even Portuguese. Solely Mr. Deck exposes false god sodomy and Gomorrah of you worldwide computer god parroting puppet gangster slaves. Make copies for yourself. You hangman rope gangster scum on top, laugh your mad giggle now. Look at the picture. See the skull, the part of bone removed, the master race Frankenstein radio controls, the brain thoughts broadcasting radio, the eyesight television, the Frankenstein earphone radio, the threshold brainwash radio, the latest new skull reforming to contain all Frankenstein controls, even in thin skulls of white pedigree males. Visible Frankenstein controls, the synthetic nerve radio directional antenna loop. Make copies for yourself. There is no escape from this worst gangster police state using all of the deadly gangster Frankenstein controls. In 1965, CIA gangster police beat me bloody, dragged me in chains from Kennedy, New York airport. Since then, I hide in forced jobless poverty, isolated, alone in this low, deadly nigger town old house. The brazen, deadly gangster police and nigger puppet underlings spray me with poison nerve gas from automobile exhausts and even lawnmowers. Deadly assaults, even in my yard, with knives, even bricks and stones, even deadly touch taping or electric shock flashlights, even remote electronically controlled around corners projection of deadly touch tarantula spiders, or even bloody murder accidents to shut me up forever with a sneak, undetectable extermination, even with trained parroting puppet assassins in maximum security insanity prison for writing these unforgivable truths until my undetectable extermination I, Francis E. Deck, Esquire, 29 Maple Avenue, Hempstead, New York, I stand alone against your mad, deadly, worldwide, conspiratorial gangster computer god communism with wall-to-wall, deadly gangster protection, lifelong sworn conspirators, murder incorporated organized crime, the police and judges, the deadly sneak parroting puppet gangsters using all the gangster deadly Frankenstein controls, these hangman rope sneak deadly gangsters, the judges and the police trick, trap, rob, wreck, butcher, and murder the people to keep them terrorized in gangster Frankenstein earphone radio slavery for the communist gangster government and con artist parroting puppet gangster playboy scum on top. The secret work of all police in order to maintain a communist closed society. The same worldwide mad, deadly communist gangster computer god that controls you as a terrorized gangster Frankenstein earphone radio slave, parroting puppet. You are a terrorized member of the master race worldwide, 4 billion eyesight television camera guinea pig communist gangster computer god master race. You're living, thinking, mad, deadly, worldwide communist gangster computer god secret overall plan, worldwide living death Frankenstein slavery to explore and control the entire universe with the endless stairway to the stars, namely the man-made inside-out planets with nucleonic-powered speeds much faster than the speed of light. Look up and see the gangster computer god concocted new fake starry sky, the worldwide completely controlled deadly degenerative climate and atmosphere through the new world-round translucent exotic gaseous envelope, which the worldwide communist gangster computer god manipulates through countless exactly positioned satellites, the new fake phony stars in the synthetic sky for ages before Frankenstein controls. Apoitic niggers interbreedable with apes had no alphabet, not even numerals. Slavery conspiracy over 300 years ago. Ideally tiny-brained apoitic nigger gangster government eyesight TV gangster spy cameras. Computer god new world order degeneration. Gifted with all gangster Frankenstein controls, nigger deadly gangster parroting puppets or nigger brain programmed robots, deadly ape Frankenstein machines, degenerative disease to eternal Frankenstein slavery, overall plan through one world communism, top secret code word, meaning worldwide absolutely helpless and hopeless, simple language, mongrel mulatto apoitic niggers. Worldwide, systematic, instant plastic surgery, butchery, murder, fake aging so all people are dead or useless by age 70. Done at night to you as a Frankenstein slave, parroting puppet gangster slave. Now even you know I am a menace to your worldwide mad, deadly, communist gangster computer god. Therefore, I must go to extermination before I am exterminated by this gangster computer god concocted and controlled worst mongrel organized crime murder incorporated gangster communist government. I hand you the secrets to save the entire human race and the entire universe. Donate money or even a manual typewriter to me for your only hope for a future. Look at the picture. See the skull, the part of bone removed, the master race Frankenstein radio controls, the brain thoughts broadcasting radio, the eyesight television, the Frankenstein earphone radio, the threshold brainwash radio, the latest new skull reforming to contain all Frankenstein controls, even in thin skulls of white pedigree males. Visible Frankenstein controls, the synthetic nerve radio directional antenna loop. Make copies for yourself. There is no escape from this worst gangster police state using all of the deadly gangster Frankenstein controls. In 1965, CIA gangster police beat me bloody, dragged me in chains from Kennedy, New York airport. Since then, I hide in forced jobless poverty, isolated, alone in this low, deadly nigger town old house. The brazen, deadly gangster police and nigger puppet underlings spray me with poison nerve gas from automobile exhausts and even lawnmowers. Deadly assaults even in my yard.
Yeah, here I is again, that's me, and there's you. And I dig all you cats out there whipping and wailing and jumping up and down and sucking up that fine juice and patting each other on the back and telling each other who the greatest cat in the world is. Mr. Malenkov, Mr. Dalenkov, Mr. Eisenhower, Woosen, Wiesen, Meisen, Wooser, and Mr. Woodhill, and Mr. Beachhill, and Mr. Churchill, and all them hills, they gonna get it straight. If they can't straighten it, they know a cat that knows a cat that's gonna get it straight. But I'm gonna put a cat on you was the sweetest, gonest, wailingest cat that ever stomped on this sweet swinging yeah. And they call this your cat the Naz. That was the cat's name. He was a carpenter kitty. Now the Naz was a kind of a cat that come on so wild and so sweet and so strong and so witty that when he laid it, wham, it stayed there. Naturally, all the rest of the cat looked to see what he putting down. He said, man, look at that cat blow. Let the cat go there, man. Look at, get out the way. He said, man, don't bug me. Get off my back. I'm trying to dig what the cat's seeing. Jack said, cool. They're pushing the Naz because they want to dig his lick. You see, dig his miracle lick. So the Naz say, wait a minute, babies. Tell you what I'm gonna do. I ain't gonna take 2 for 6 of you cats, but I'm gonna take 12 of you studs and straighten you all at the same time. You cats look like you're pretty hip boys. You buddy with me. Naz and his buddies was goofing off down the boulevard one day, and they run into a little cat with a bent frame. So the Naz look at this little cat with a bent frame and he say, what's the matter with you, baby? And the little cat with the bent frame, he said, well, my frame is bent, Naz. It's been bent for me in front. So the Naz looked at the little cat with the bent frame, and he put the golden eyes of love on this here little kitty, and he looked right down into the windows of his soul, and he said to the little cat, he said, straight! Cat went up straight in the now, and everybody jumping up and down and say, look what the Naz put on that boy. You dug him before, dig him now. Yes, I can feel it. Now you see the Naz are coming on so strong and so fine and so great. Talking about when's he going to appear next? What did he do there? He put it down once for the cat dug it, didn't dig it. Put it down twice, dug it, didn't dig it. Put it down the third time, the cat dug it. Wham! Walked away with his eyes bugging out here, there, bugging there, everybody. Naz coming on so fine and so strong. They put it on his coattail. They want him to sign the autograph. They want him to do this gig here. They want him to do that gig there. They want to make it the radio with the video and all that jazz. He can't make all that jazz. Like I explained to the cat, the carpenter kid, he's got his own lake. But when he know he should show to blow and cannot go, because he got some strain on him, he sends a couple of these cats to his straightening. So came a little old 50-cent gig one day, and the Naz couldn't make it, so he put it on two of these cats. He said, boss, go straighten that little riff over there. Boss said, take it off your mind, Naz, we got it covered. So on the way over, the boss run into a little old 20-cent pool of water, and he gets right in the middle of the boat, and all of a sudden, blam! Thunderstorm, the lightning flashing and the thunder roaring, and the boat going up and down, and the poor cats thinking every minute gonna be the last, and one cat looked up, and here comes the Naz. Cool as anyone you ever see, right across the water, walking. And the Naz is a little boy on board. I think his name is Jude on board the boat. He say, hey, Naz, can I make it out there with you? Naz say, make it, Jude. And old Jude went stomping off that boat, took about 4 steps, dropped his whole counter. The Naz had to stash him back on board again. So the Naz look at these kiddies and he say, what's the matter with you babies now? I said, what's going on here, boys? I said, what's taking place? I said, what's all this fuss about here? What's going on? I said, ma'am, so what's going on? I said, can't you see the storm and the lightning flashing and the thunder roaring? The Naz say, I told you stay cool, didn't I, babies? Now the fame of the Naz is jumping. The grapevine is shooting out sparks 40 feet long, and they're talking about what he said. I stood up to all these big bad cats and dug all that bad jazz and put him all down. And what he said he's going to do and where he's going to be and how he's going to be, till the grapevine is jumping so bad, there is now 16,000 of these studs and kiddies in the Naz's little hometown where the cat lives, looking to get straight. The Naz know he can't straighten them all. There's too small a place to want to hang everybody up. Nobody can make it. So the Naz look out at these 16,000 studs and kiddies and they say to them, come on, babies. Just get on out down the road. There went the Naz, swinging away ahead of all these studs and kiddies and 16,000, stomping up a big swinging beat behind them. And our great necklace of love is supercharging and charging to them. Oh, it's brother to brother and sister to sister. And the Naz is stomping on a sweet swinging beat, going down the road. And Naz talking about how pretty the flowers, how pretty the hours, how pretty me, how pretty you, how pretty he, how pretty she. Naz had them pretty eyes. He wanted everybody to see through his eyes so they could see how pretty it was. And having such a wailing, gorgeous, Mardi Gras time that before you know it, it was scorpion time, and these poor cats is 42 miles out of town. Ain't nobody got the first biscuit. Well, the Naz look at these cats, and they say they're kicking the sand out there. The Naz say, hungry, ain't you, babies? Say, yeah, Naz. We digging you so hard what you putting down that we didn't prepare, Naz. We goofed. Yes, that's what you call it. So the Naz say, well, we got to take it easier. We wouldn't want to go ahead and hold up something you might not like, would we? And they say, no, Naz, you put it down and we'll pick it up. So the Naz stepped back a few paces and he said, all great swinging flowers of the fields. And they said, oh, great non-stop singing the song of beauty. And the Naz said, stamp upon the terror. And they hit it. And the Naz said, straighten your man to the body. The body went up. And he said, straighten your arms. The arms went up. And he said, higher. And the arms went higher. And the Naz said, dig infinity. And they dug it. And when they did, wham! The thunder went through. And they look in the left hand. Is a great, big, sweet, stuffed, smoked fish. And in the other, a big, thick loaf of that gone crazy honey tasting, non-stop, sweet, swinging southern bread. Why, these polecats flipped. Naz never did nothing simple. When he laid it, he laid it. So when the saints marching in, where the saints go marching in, hallelujah! I want to be
Your life is your life. Don't let it be clubbed into dank submission. You can't beat death, but you can beat death in life. And the more often you learn to do it, the more light there will be. There are ways out. There is a light somewhere. If you're going to try, go all the way. Otherwise, don't even start. If you're going to try, go all the way. This could mean losing girlfriends, wives, relatives, jobs, and maybe your mind. Go all the way. It could mean not eating for 3 or 4 days. It could mean freezing on a park bench. It could mean jail. It could mean derision, mockery, isolation. Isolation is the gift. All the others are a test of your endurance, of how much you really want to do it. And you'll do it, despite rejection and the worst odds. And it will be better than anything else you can imagine. If you're going to try, go all the way. There is no other feeling like that. You will be alone with the gods, and the nights will flame with fire. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. All the way. All the way. You will ride life straight to perfect laughter. It's the only good fight there is.
It is good that you are becoming aware of a very essential phenomenon, that in the marketplace you had become mechanical, robot-like, coming here, you are more relaxed. The speed of the mind is slowly getting less. And as your awareness is becoming clear, your mechanicalness is disappearing. You have to see that awareness and mechanicalness cannot exist together. There is no coexistence possible between those two factors. In the marketplace, you are not expected to be aware. You are expected to be efficient. Efficiency is a quality of machines. Machines are more efficient than human beings. Because efficiency is required, you become more mechanical. And as you become more mechanical, your awareness disappears. And your awareness is your real being. By efficiency and mechanicalness, you may succeed in earning more money, more power, more prestige, more respectability. But you will lose yourself. And you are losing yourself very cheaply. What you are gaining in return is worthless. Do you know how many people have lived before you on this earth? Do you realize the fact that millions of them were successful people? Millions of them were famous in their time. And now, even people don't remember their names. They have disappeared like dreams. without leaving any trace behind. We are also going to disappear in the same way. The only few people who have died and yet continue to live on in people's love, in people's trust, are not the very successful, the emperors, the world conquerors, the richest. These few people who are, in spite of their death, still beat in the hearts of men, belong to a totally different category. They were the people of awareness, people with soul. Their impact has been so deep that it will remain unto the last man. Gautam Buddha, Lao Tzu, Kabir, Christ, Al-Hillas Mansur, these people cannot be forgotten. They will go on living in the deepest parts of your being. For the simple reason that they never compromise their awareness with the expectations of the marketplace. So the first thing that you have become aware, make your awareness more sharp. And next time when you go to the marketplace, there is no need to become robot-like. Perhaps you will not be so efficient as robots. So what? Perhaps you will not be so successful as the mechanical ones. So what? Let them have their day. And then they will disappear like soap bubbles. Don't feel jealous of them. Be compassionate towards them. And remain contented with your awareness. Risk everything for awareness, but never risk awareness for anything. There is no other value which is higher than awareness. Awareness is the seed of godliness in you. When it comes to its full growth, you have come to the fulfillment of your destiny. The deeper your awareness will go, your actions may not be efficient, but they will have a new quality, the quality of grace. And which is far more valuable. No machine can have the quality of grace. Your actions, your words will have a beauty of their own. The way a man of awareness lives, each moment is filled with tremendous grace and beauty. It is reflected in his actions. Even in the smallest actions, just in the gesture of his hand, or just the way he looks, in the depth of his eyes, are the authority of his word. Are the music of his silence. His very presence is a celebration. woman with this love in the same parcel comes fear. She may leave you. She has already left somebody and come with you. There is a precedent. Perhaps she will do the same to you. There is fear. You feel knots in the stomach. You are too much attached. You cannot get a simple fact that you had come alone in the world. You have been here yesterday also without this woman, perfectly well, without any knots in their stomach. And tomorrow this woman goes. What is the need of the knots? You know how to be without her. And you will be able to be without her. The fear that things may change tomorrow. Somebody may die. You may go bankrupt. Your job may be taken away. There are 1,001 things which may change. And you are burdened with fears and fears. And none of them is valid. Because yesterday also you were full of all these fears. Unnecessarily. Things may have changed, but you are still alive. And man has an immense capacity to adjust himself in any situation. They say that only men and cockroaches have the immense capacity of adjustment. That's why wherever you will find men, you will find cockroaches, and wherever you will find cockroaches, you will find men. They go together. They have a similarity. Even in far away places like North Pole or South Pole, when man traveled to those places, he found suddenly that he has brought cockroaches with him. And they are perfectly healthy and living and reproducing. If you just look around the earth, you can see man lives in thousands of different climates, geographical situations, political situations, sociological situations, religious situations, but he manages to live. And he has lived for centuries. Things go on changing. He goes on adjusting himself. There is nothing to fear. Even if the world ends, so what? You will be ending with it. Do you think you will be standing on an island and the whole world will end, leaving you alone? Don't be worried, at least you will have few cockroaches with you. What is the problem if the world ends? It has been asked many times to me. But what is the problem? If it ends, it ends. It does not create any problem because we will not be here. We will be ending with it. And there will be no one to worry about. It will be really the greatest freedom from fear. The world ending means every problem ending, every disturbance ending, every knot in your stomach ending. I don't see the problem. But I know that everybody is full of fear. But the question is the same. The fear is part of the mind. The mind is a coward and has to be a coward because it doesn't have any substance. It is empty and hollow, and it is afraid of everything. And basically it is afraid that one day you may become aware. That will be really the end of the world. Not the end of the world, but your becoming aware. Your coming to a state of meditation where mind has to disappear. That is its basic fear. Because of that fear, it keeps people away from meditations. Makes them enemies of people like me who are trying to spread something of meditation, some way of awareness and witnessing. They become antagonistic to me, not without any reason. Their fear is well founded. They may not be aware of it. Their mind is really afraid to come close to anything that can create more awareness in you. That will be the beginning of the end of the mind. That will be the death of the mind. But for you there is no fear. The death of the mind will be your rebirth, your real beginning to live. You should be happy. You should rejoice in the death of the mind. Because nothing can be a greater freedom. Nothing can give you wings to fly into the sky. Nothing can make the whole sky yours. Mind is a prison. Awareness is getting out of the prison, or realizing that it has never been in the prison. Just it was thinking that it is in the prison. All fears disappear. I am also living in the same world. But I have never felt for a single moment any fear, because nothing can be taken away from me. I can be killed, but I will be seeing it happening. So what is being killed is not me, is not my awareness. The greatest discovery in life, the most precious treasure is of awareness. Without it, you are bound to be in darkness, full of fears. And you will go on creating new fears. There is no end to it. You will live in fear, you will die in fear. And you will never be able to taste something of freedom. And it was all the time your tendency. Any moment you could have claimed it. But you never claimed it. It is your responsibility.
Oh, you understand the past with all the human experience of which you are, right? Your consciousness is with its content is the past, the present and the future. Right? Your consciousness is that. What you believe you have been told, you have been programmed by the experts in politics, in religion, in education and so on, which is the past, right? Are you following all this? And the past is there now, and the future is the outcome of that past, right? Which is already here. So the now contains all time as past, present and the future. And to understand this in depth, so that the now contains the whole thing. All existence is now. Therefore, there is no movement away from the now. There is no movement away from the fact and the non-fact. A movement away from the fact to non-fact. That has ended. Therefore, there is no conflict. I wonder if you understand that. Not verbally, please don't take it verbally. See the truth. So that the brain, which has lived for thousands of years, which is not your brain, is not your fault, it's the fault of whole of humanity, which we went into very carefully last few days ago. So, the fact is now, and the fact contains all the past, present and the future. But to listen to that fact is for the fact to reveal the content. Not you tell the fact what its content is. I want you to understand this. Are we thinking together? Or are you merely listening to some words of the speaker and therefore confused? Are we thinking together that we are now not only the past, all the memories, all the activities, the pain, the anxiety, the hurts, the loneliness, the suffering, the pain, the fears, you're all that now, right? And the future is what is now, right? Obviously, so. So the future and the past exist now, because what you are, right? This is so incredible. What's the difficulty? Would you kindly express your difficulty? Very simply, please, don't complicate it. Aren't you the past? Right? Your education. You are being programmed as a Swiss, as a British, as a German, as a Hindu, an American, Russian, and so on. You are being programmed. that program is the past, right? So the past is your accumulated memories, right? That memory, those memories are stored in the brain. Yeah, so the past is now, right? And the now also contains the future, unless there is a fundamental mutation. You understand? That is a complete mutation in the very brain cells of the brain. You are the past memories and continuing in the future is memory. The future is now, therefore, and the past is now. Is that clear? Unless there is fundamental psychological change. That is, when there is this conditioning of the human brain, right? Which that conditioning is memory. Right? I'm a Catholic, I'm a Protestant, I'm a Hindu, I'm a Buddhist. I don't believe in gods, but I believe in Marx, Lenin, which is the same thing in different words. My guru is better than your guru and all the rest of that business. So the brain of each one of us is conditioned, programmed, which is the vast accumulation of the past. That's simple enough. So we are memories. Right? You may think that you are something more superior than memory, but you're not. Even when you think you are superior, that very thought is memory. Right? So, memory is a movement of time, time as the future and the present. So, if you remain with that fact and not move away from it, that you are now, you are the rest of all time. Right? Then when you realize, when the fact is revealed that you are that, and if you give your complete attention, not escape from that, you follow? That memory is you. You are not different from that memory. Right? So there is no division between you and that memory. When there is division, there is conflict. So the observer is the observed. The experiencer is the experienced. The analyzer is the analyzed. And so on. Then conflict ends. Conflict exists only when there is division. And therefore the brain then has no conflict. And therefore there is no deterioration of the brain. But most of our brains have deteriorated or are deteriorating. That's a fact. And so one has to discover why. What are the causes of deterioration? Essentially conflict. A mind that's frightened, a brain that lives in fear, which we'll discuss next time, fear and all the rest of it. Such a brain must deteriorate. A brain that is seeking constant sensuality, sexuality, must deteriorate. is a fact.